this defund the police nonsense. What these people could have possibly done is undid every fuck up Donald Trump has made in these 4 years. They've possibly provided Trump with the slogan that's going to be better than Make America Great Again. I can see the ads. I see them coming about how Trump promises to protect and serve the people who swore to protect and serve the public. I see it. Biden, he did the right thing when he said he'd give the police more money. I don't like that idea, but him saying it was smart. You can't run against Trump and be against the police. Saying you're going to defund the cops, Biden done. It's already going to be hard enough to beat Trump, so you're going to abolish the cops and you're finished. And the DNC already has many things against it, like that extra gay stuff they putting in the law, or that stupid gun regulation talk, and or that anti-big business rhetoric, and a few other things. And especially, the DNC has let insurgents that call themselves progressives run amok within the Democratic Party. They hide inside that party, whereas who this defund the cops stuff came from.
There's no way to mess it up. Then he disappeared. Then media hijacked the message. So in that sense, absolutely.
Well, but also, his deal was he explained it, and he's not. Look, Colin's a very shy guy as well. That goes to it, and so it's all a part of that. I'm just saying, for the people out there who believe in the defunding the police and the concept, what I'm saying is control the narrative. Do not let the negative folks start telling you what it actually means, because that's where it's going to be a problem. And I can see it happening, but it hasn't taken foot yet. But we'll see what goes down.
All right, folks, back to that Roland Mark Unfiltered video.
And what I just played for you was the ending of the show and frustration Roland had with the people on this panel that just refused to see that the point he was making was more important than any of those other things the people on the panel was distracted with. That was the end of the segment I just played. Let's see what happened.
There and explain to you what defund the police is, and you have no idea. Okay, so Abolish, you were tweeting about this. So is the issue the hashtag? Is it too complex? Or is the problem folks don't actually want to read? What is it?
Well, here it is. I kind of alluded to this earlier. Democrats need to be a lot more savvy when it comes to messaging. You know, we have great ideas, and I don't think anyone with 2 grains of sense would disagree with anything that Senator Harris just said there. Even Meghan McCain seemed to agree with what she was saying. The challenge is that the actual phrase that's being used to describe that can lead people to misinterpret what's being demanded here. When I hear the word defund, the original thought that comes to mind is to zero out a budget, right? That means that's what most people will believe. So it requires a lot of explanation and a lot of education to get people to the point where they really understand the broader arguments around it. Here's the challenge with politics. When you're explaining, you're losing. Period.
But the deal though, but Brittany,
and it seems like to me, if your argument is that you want to redirect funding and you have to go into greater detail, that's fine. To me, a better argument or a better thing to focus in on would be to say demilitarize the police.
You saw the look on Roland's face? She said, yeah, the Democrats have a problem with messaging, and agreed that it's important to control the message, then said, so what? Who cares what the public thinks? So what about public perception is what, when you're explaining, you're losing means.
It's a holistic process. In certain areas, we do need more reform. There's certain areas where they have not handled people the same way. There's other areas where 70% of that needs to get trashed. You can look at Ahmaud Arbery's situation. That whole DA, that whole situation is horrible. But you may not have the same scenario there. I think that's an example of how we can explain that to people at different levels. And I think how Senator Harris asked her, well, what is your definition of defunding? So I can see where I'm actually meeting you at. Even though I did just explain this to you very thoroughly, I can kind of meet you somewhere in the middle.
I'm only making this point, and it's very simple. The people who are advocating for defund the police must control the narrative. What they can't do is allow the opposition to now define their own phrase and define their narrative.
Right. Got it. Did you hear Roland interrupting them? frustrated that the dude was up there bringing up all kind of stuff instead of the point about controlling the narrative. That dude brought up LeBron James rioting and Ahmaud Arbery and this, that, and the third.
You must be in front of the narrative and not allow someone else to define what your meaning is. Brittany.
Roland, I absolutely agree. I've actually seen two different factions in terms of how we discuss defunding the police. I have seen people who believe that defunding the police means that we will still have police in the way that we think about it today. They will literally just have less funding. We will divest from policing, and we will invest in communities of color, as Kamala Harris just stated. But I've also seen people pushing for something different, which is to get rid of policing as we know it. And I think that they've used such examples as what's going on in Minneapolis. You know, we think about the University of Minneapolis contracts with, you know, they cancel their contracts with police. We see them being pulled out of, you know, the local school systems there. You know, we hear council members talking about completely revisioning what we know and understand policing to be in its current state. And I just real quickly, I want to go back to what Senator Booker said, which I thought was really interesting. He said 4 months ago, I didn't even think this bill would have been possible. And what I thought was so powerful is, well, why is it possible now? And that's because the power of the people said it was possible. And, you know, at one point in the United States, we didn't think we could go without slavery. We didn't think we would have a world that had, you know, we could go without legal segregation. And yet here we are. And I think we're at a really key moment. And I just hope that we are continuing to radically think about a new world. I just hope we continue to think about a radically different new world. But I bring up an excellent point in terms of the naming.
Maj, I think the key here is this here. I think the key is when people were asking the question to the mayor of Minneapolis, will you agree to defund the police? I think you've got to actually state what that is and not just sit on a phrase. That's all I'm saying here. I know Republicans are excellent with bumper sticker slogans that don't require explanation because a lot of their people who follow them are not smart.
Brings up Cory Booker and slavery and pulling cops out of school and all this other stuff. Because she thinks that having the idea is more important than controlling the narrative. She thinks that her knowing what it means more than if the public views it a different way. A public that will be voting with it on their mind, the horror, if the day comes where there will be no police. Another problem with the DNC is that it'll probably wait till September 4th before it tries to make voter suppression a national issue with elections in November. Voter suppression favors Republicans. Trump said out of his own mouth months ago that the more people turn up to vote, the less likely a Republican will win. He said this. But the main voices who favors the DNC doesn't put enough emphasis on the matter. They stress more about Trump's tweets than his party's voter suppression. And this is why Trump is not already finished. We think that there's no way this clown can win again. With all he's done, we think that the odds are against him, but it's not over because of the incompetence of the other side. This defund stuff, if some big people don't start explaining this continuously, Trump got it. His side is all over the internet working hard to twist this defund thing into evil. The other side, I hardly hear a word trying to protect this thing. Again, the Republican side working their fingers to the bone. But the real holders of the narrative are the creators. And they're saying, get rid of the police. So anybody else, me, Roland, and all else trying to explain it other than how the creators meant it, are attempting to hijack the original intent of defunding the police. And it should be hijacked. Because getting rid of the police is crazy, even if it's just a thought.